This is a free download from the BBC. For more information, go to bbc.co.uk/podcasts.
Hello. Thanks for downloading Iain Lee's free podcast for free. You may notice this isn't Iain's voice. I could tell you, as he asked me to, that he's doing some glamorous telly job, or that he's got a meeting about being the next James Bond, or, and this was his favourite one, that Hugh Hefner's jacuzzi's on the blink and he's been asked to provide the bubbles. But the truth is, he's at home in his pants, struggling with a particularly tricky level of Mario Kart. So while he decides whether to be Yoshi or Princess Peach, and we all know he's going to go Peach, he's got me, Catherine Boyle, off the news to take up his considerable slack. Typical.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Coming up, you can hear some outrageous threats from Iain.
I am going to get my television, dig a big hole in the back garden, throw it in, do a wee-wee on it, throw rocks at it, and then smother it with earth.
Find out who's making this sound.
Exterminate, Iain Lee. Exterminate.
And hear what this is all about.
Sorry?
Turn that off. A bit of respect.
So if you like hearing middle-aged men go on and on and on, you're in for a real treat. Because he went off on one about Doctor Who for 2 whole days.
New Doctor Who. If Stephen Mangan or that lady with the glasses who's on everything, Sue Perkins, if either of them become Doctor Who, I'm going to sell my television on eBay, the auction site, and never ever watch television ever again as long as I live. It means that all hope is lost. Give up hope, all ye who enter here, because Stephen Mangan... Right, let's do the Mangan rant, shall we? Here comes the Mangan rant. He's overrated, he's dull, he's not a particularly good actor. He's an adequate actor, he's adequate, but he's not good. He's a poor man Steve Coogan with the bubble cut, the wet perm, and the busy mouth. He's a poor man Steve Coogan. There's no need for Stephen Mangan on our televisions. And Sue Perkins, I like Sue Perkins. She's all right. I've worked with Sue. She's nice. No, not Doctor Who. No, we cannot have a lady Doctor Who. We can't have a lady Doctor Who. I'm sorry. This is one of the things. I'll give you your Lady Bishops. Yeah, go have a Lady Bishop. Go on. Lady Doctors even these days, but not a Doctor Who. I'm not having it. Quite strong about this. It is against the rules. Mangan and Perkins are both likeable. That's their main character trait. They're likeable. You can't have Can we have an old Doctor Who, please? The way it should be. Can we get John Hurt as an old Doctor Who? We can't have one of these youngsters. One of the newspapers. I'm sorry, Richard and Winslow. You're going to have to wait. Unless you want to talk about Doctor Who. Sorry?
Blah, 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 blah.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I didn't think I was on. I was on yet.
Well,
Should I make my point?
No, don't make your point. Is that the noise you make when I'm talking?
Well, I didn't think I was through yet. I thought it was a general apology on air.
No, what I'm doing is I'm doing a piece, and then I go to you because you want to talk about pensioners, and I was about to be politely saying, Richard, you may have...
I start?
No, you shan't start because I'm talking to you.
Interrupt.
No,
all right.
Shush.
When you're ready, in your own time.
Unbelievable. Didn't I ban you once?
I'm not still on.
You just by the skin of your teeth. Stop snorting. So, these are the people, Richard, that are in line to be the new Doctor Who. We'll get to your point later, if at all.
I could be the Doctor Who. I'm old.
Rupert Grint is 10-1. Thunderpants.
What about me, then?
No, not Richard. No, you're not in the running.
Oh, all right.
How do you look in a scarf?
Dreadful.
OK. So, Rupert Grint from the...
How do you look in a scarf?
I look good in a scarf, actually. I look very handsome.
Really?
Although my haircut's too short.
Though, isn't it, a scarf?
How are scarves girly?
Well, the way you wear it, probably... Anyway, look, I came on to phone up about the other thing. When are we going to get round to that?
Billie Piper.
Sorry? Yeah, lovely. Definitely.
Would she be good as Doctor Who?
I don't know about that, but she's good at other things, I believe.
That's the character she plays. Martin Freeman.
Don't know him.
He's the fella from The Office and The Hobbit.
Don't watch it.
OK. Rhys Ifans, the Welsh man in his pants?
Oh, yes, I like him. He's hilarious, old Rhys.
Would he be good as a doctor?
I don't know. I don't watch Doctor Who. So since I saw a Dalek, we jumped behind the sofa. I haven't watched it since.
For goodness sakes. All right, well, listen, you've called in about pensioners having it hard.
You said earlier about pensioners aren't having any other cuts. Well, we are. We're getting the inheritance tax cut held at 325,000. So when I pop my clogs again, and it won't be too long, I'm sure, there'll be less to give to my son and heirs.
But again,
it's outrageous.
But Richard, listen, you're not listening to anything I'm saying this morning, and this is why I'm close to banning you for I think the 5th time. You won't be affected by the inheritance tax. Your sons will. Your sons will. You won't be affected.
Yeah, of course, it's my money, and of course I want my money to go where I want my money to go.
You'll be dead.
It doesn't mean the government can have 40% of everything over £325,000.
I can't get a word in edgewise, and I believe it's my show.
Makes change.
Richard, you'll be dead.
So what? Just because I'm dead, you can't come and rob me. Take the pennies off my eyes. There's a couple of pennies. We'll have them as well.
I'll tell you what. One thing is, it means my show will run a bit smoother.
He bans out Richard every week, and every week he still gets him on. Personally, I think they should just kiss and get it over with.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Ian's Doctor Who rant continued.
You can't have a woman Doctor Who. No, you can't do it. It doesn't work. You've got the vote. You're almost earning the same as us. You want to be Doctor Who now? No, we might as well have a Lady James Bond, for goodness sake. Doctor Who's a bloke. He's a bloke. Doctor, it's there. Oh, no, you can have lady doctors as well, can't you? Well, Justin Daly has been looking into this, haven't you, Justin?
Exterminate, Iain Lee. Exterminate. Good morning, Ian. You well?
I don't understand why you were just doing a Woody Allen voice when I think you meant to be doing exterminate, exterminate,
oh, that's better,
kill the
actually,
dealie.
Yeah. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
I love Richard as well.
Oh, you know,
lovely.
Exterminate. I got to exterminate. I'm Woody Allen as a... it doesn't work, Justin, for good. Have you ever seen Doctor Who?
I'm not a big fan, I have to be honest with you. Sci-fi nonsense, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow, controversial.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of it at all. But, of course, a lot of talk about this new Doctor. Could it be a lady? You're offended by this.
Yes.
A lot of people are as well. I've been in Hemel Hempstead asking people how they would feel if we had a female Doctor for the first time, and this is what people had to say.
Hang on, sorry, you actually went out and asked this question?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Bill, you love Doctor Who. How would you feel about seeing a female Doctor? Would that offend you?
It wouldn't offend me. I would much prefer a male actor playing the part, purely on the basis that if you start having sex gender changing, particularly with the Doctor had a granddaughter, does that mean his granddaughter Susan would become a male, played by a person like Ross Kemp? And how... but it's science fiction, so I suppose anything can happen.
Yes.
But that's my reasoning.
You've taken this answer very seriously. If there was a female Doctor, and be honest here, would you turn it off or would you give it a try?
I would always give it a try. Definitely.
OK, this is a very personal question. Sorry for asking this, but our listeners, I'm sure, are desperate to know. You're such a Doctor Who fanatic. You've been watching it since 1972. Are you single?
No. In fact, my wife arranged for a Dalek to appear at our wedding reception.
This is just getting weird now. And how great was that for you?
It was a big surprise. It was fantastic, because this was back in 2003 when I got married, and Doctor Who wasn't on the television back then, so there was children didn't know what it was. Children who'd never seen a Dalek before.
Yeah.
Never hid behind a sofa.
Oh, come on, give us your Dalek impression, come on. I'll turn away, I'll turn away. Give us your Dalek impression, I'm listening.
Exterminate, you will obey us.
Let's exterminate this conversation. Rita, just before I start, you tell things the way they are, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Absolutely. So, should we have a female Doctor, or is that just wrong? What do you think?
No, I think you should have a female Doctor on there. Well, I just think cause it's like racism, isn't it? If you know, just having an ordinary, like you say, for Doctor, I just think there should be, because it's sort of like, it's like as if you're being racist, isn't it, against a woman being on there, isn't it, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I think, Justin, excuse me if I've got this wrong, I think that racism against women is called sexism.
I think so.
I think.
Do you know the best thing about this feature? Doctor Who fans, none of them are normal people. You've heard two there,
no,
come on.
I'm
you
not
can't
having,
say they're normal people.
No, I'm not having that, Justin. They both sounded like delightful, wonderful people that I could happily spend an evening with. I'd love to go around and watch Doctor Who with that bloke or that woman.
It's racism that if we don't have a female doctor, and secondly, the man had a Dalek at his wedding and was doing Dalek impressions, talking about sex changes, what would happen? Yeah, these people are totally normal, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Hey, my dad stole a Dalek once.
Did he really?
Yeah, we had, years ago, when I was about 7 years old, we lived on a council estate in Slough. My dad said, come round to the lock-up garage, I've got something to show you, kids. So all right, what is it? We opened it, there was a Dalek in there! You see, we're living the dream, Dealey.
Were you scared, though?
Yes, I was scared. Yeah. Can I make a personal observation about you? And I've known you for about 8 months now, and I think I can say this without offending you. You literally have no soul, do you?
What do you mean by that?
You're cold, you're callous, you're heartless, you're soulless.
No.
You don't get any of the things that bring joy to life, Justin.
That is not true. That is not true at all. I don't know where you're getting that impression from.
When was the last time you experienced joy?
Last time I experienced joy was probably, let me think, it was probably a couple of weeks ago, over the football.
There you go. You've answered my question, Justin. We'll speak to you later on. Doctor Who, lady. It can't happen. I swear to, if Sue Perkins or AN other lady becomes the Doctor, I am going to get my television, dig a big hole in the back garden, throw it in, do a weebie on it, throw rocks at it, and then smother it with earth, and never, ever watch the infernal thing again.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is Iain Lee.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
An audit undertaken at Luton and Dunstable Hospital in the first 3 months of this year has highlighted problems with procedure whilst discharging patients. Among the failings found by the report were 2 patients being sent home with cannulas still in their arms. Ouch. A patient with dementia being sent home without the family being made aware. A patient discharged without a letter of medication. Well, the concerns raised in the audit are currently being addressed, and the hospital is in the process of hiring 9 more discharge officers. Joining me now is Karen Ward, Director of Operations at Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Morning, Karen.
Good morning,
Karen,
Iain.
These are big problems, aren't they? How did they occur in the first place?
I think we're really keen to learn from any incidents that we have, and discharge procedures are something that are really quite complicated. Just to get it into perspective for everybody, we discharge about 3,000 patients a month, and this audit showed an average of 3 discharge-related issues every month. Now, I don't want to kind of undermine that 3 is still 3 too many, and we're working really closely with...
A patient being sent home with dementia without the family being made aware. Listen, the other 99.9% may get away fine, but for that person and that family, that's not good enough. How did that happen?
I think you're right, it's not good enough. And in that case, the family were aware they were going home. It was the timing that was an issue. But what I don't want to do is kind of get drawn into the individual cases.
Well, how does it happen, though, Karen? These cases are significant. How did that happen?
Discharge is really, really complicated. There are lots of organisations involved and lots of things that need to happen in the right order. So for some people it's getting the equipment into their home, knowing the time that the carers are going to be there, lining that up with getting all their medications ready.
And how did that not happen in this instance? How did a patient with dementia get sent home without the family being made aware?
As I say, there's a significant number of discharges.
Okay, and they didn't work in this. They didn't work in this instance. So how did that happen?
And I think
you need to know how it happened so that we can prevent it happening again, don't we? So how did it happen?
Exactly the point of why we've done the audit.
Okay, and what did the audit show about this case?
Well, I can't really get drawn into individual cases because of issues around kind of confidentiality. But what I can assure you is the issues have been investigated and that we are working really closely to actually understand. Because what we have to do is understand where things go wrong. It's not necessarily about who did it or why it happened. It's getting to that why did it happen.
Okay, well, why did it happen?
Right?
Obviously they're not. Why did it happen?
Oh, that's around communication. A lot of these issues are around getting things done at the right time with the right people. And things like our discharge officers have been a real bonus. They've really been able to support the doctors and nurses on the ward.
Obviously not in this instance, have they?
No, and that's why we're looking at the time that the discharge officers are on the ward and whether actually we've got enough of them.
I'm really desperate to find out, and I know you can't be too specific, but for those people who use this hospital and will be curious about this and maybe slightly concerned, How could... you've not explained the failings in the system that allowed someone with dementia to be sent home without their family being told. How could that go wrong? That seems an obvious thing to me. If there's a bloke sitting in the corner who's got dementia, we don't let him go home until his family are aware of it at the very least. That seems obvious.
Well, I think I have to say that the family were aware that that person was going home, and also the carers that were going in to support them were aware.
But they just didn't know when.
There was one.
So they didn't know.
There was one final phone call that didn't happen.
Right.
But that person was escorted home by an ambulance crew, and obviously no one is going to be left at home and just left there. This audit came about from asking the other organisations to let us know where there were things that weren't right. Because, as you say, we can't improve things if we don't know what's going wrong, and
what went wrong? You've still not quite said, and I understand that. You keep saying we can't improve things unless we know what went wrong. What went wrong in that instance?
There was an awful lot of different pieces of communication.
Well, let's go through them one by...
It was the final phone call to the family.
OK, so the person...
the carers were lined up, and the ambulance service were lined up, and no one's going to be left on their own in a home.
OK,
so
but the family weren't told. So has that person been disciplined who didn't make that phone call?
And as I say, we've investigated all of these issues, and there were very few for the number of patients that we discharged.
Have they been disciplined?
The issue is more about are our systems correct, and how can we ensure that we have the right system, so we're not making staff vulnerable from it being one thing that can go wrong.
What about the families that are vulnerable? Has that person who didn't make that phone call been disciplined?
I'm not sure that this is an issue of discipline. It's an issue of supporting our staff and putting...
What about you said the staff. What about the patients? Let's support the patients. There's been a huge flaw. Someone who is very vulnerable has been let down. Their family have been let down. And yet you're implying that the person who's responsible for that hasn't been disciplined. How is that acceptable?
I think the first stage in any disciplinary issue is to ensure that we give feedback, we support the staff, we obviously support the patients. We don't want anything go wrong, and our staff are really, really dedicated for what they do. And if anyone makes a mistake, if anything goes wrong, they really, really do get upset. And it's about going back to training.
Well, but so they haven't been disciplined. I'm sure they do get upset, and that's a terrible, terrible thing that a member of staff would be upset. Imagine how upset that person with dementia is, or their mum, or their sister, or their daughter. So the person who messed up hasn't been disciplined. Is that good enough?
Part of any disciplinary process, the initial bit is
that good enough?
And counsel. I don't think that that's necessarily the way that you would go around dealing with these kind of issues. It's about support and training for staff, and it's about making sure that when the patient is taken home, if something's not right, that the ambulance crew will do everything they need to do to make sure nobody is left at home alone.
Has that person who messed up in this situation been retrained? If there's been no disciplinary action, have they been retrained?
Obviously, we put training in place for when anything happens. So
they have been retrained?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, that's good. What about leaving a cannula in? That's the little thing that goes in the back of the hand, isn't it, for drips and things?
Yes, yeah.
That's been left. They've been left in a couple of times.
Yeah, and again, it's very difficult to go into detail on specifics. What we've done is look at the reasons why these things happen, and look at whether our checklist procedures are good enough, and how we can support and retrain staff so these things don't happen again.
Since this audit report came out, and it is quite disappointing, what changes have you made to procedure?
A number of things. As I say, we've looked at the checklist. We have been working really closely with, as I say, the local authority. We've made this one of our priority areas with the local authority, and done some really good joint work to understand where things go wrong and how we can improve communication, because a lot of it comes down to having really good communication. So that work's ongoing. And as I say, it's having dedicated staff who are just focusing on discharge, who have the time to actually get these things done, in the right way. So we're trying to look at increasing the number of discharge officers that we have.
And listen, we're all human. We all make mistakes. The thing is, if I make a mistake at work, I play a Fleetwood Mac record instead of a Kinks record, or I go to the wrong caller. But in a hospital, there is no room for mistakes, is there? My little boy's about to go to hospital this week, and if some of the things that's been happening in your hospital happened to him, I would be furious.
I think, again, it comes back to getting this into perspective.
The perspective is someone with dementia was released without their family being told, a patient was discharged without a letter or medication, and cannulas have been left in people's hands. I know that the percentage is tiny, but that's not good enough, is it?
No, and we're really sorry that those things happen, and obviously we don't want any mistakes to happen, and that is about getting these procedures right and the mechanisms there to make sure that we check everything and double-check everything, and that we minimise or eliminate any of these problems happening.
Karen, I appreciate your time this morning. That's Karen Ward, Director of Operations at Luton and Dunstable Hospital.
This is Iain Lee
on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Ian's skiving this week, so he's asked me to sort out the podcast for him. Cheeky beggar. But speaking of beggars, Ian was asking, if you had £1, would you give it to a beggar or a busker? If you head to our Facebook page, you can see a short video of Ian getting back to his busking roots with an original hit containing the sophisticated lyric, "Oh, pretty baby, I love you so much." I know.
I used to go busking. It was terrible. I once had a lunatic come up and threaten to punch me in the face. He pretended to be from the council. He flashed a bit of plastic at me. I'm convinced it was a library card. Having a library card does not mean you work for the council. It means you have access to council books. That's it. But how many times have you heard something funny, interesting, or just stupid on the street? Well, Justin Dealey does all the time, and usually he's got a microphone in his pocket. Yes. Well, the other day, he steamed into a row between an unlicensed busker and a beggar fighting over space in Luton town centre. Most normal people would just walk on by, but Justin, you got involved, didn't you?
I did, actually.
You idiot.
I mean, fascinating. A row between two people who were doing something illegal. It's illegal to beg in the UK, and it's also illegal to busk without a licence.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah. You need a licence, of course you do. You can't just turn up on the street and start playing guitar.
It's political madness gone wrong.
It is. PC madness in this country, but it was fascinating to hear this, because the homeless man was saying, look, you leave me alone, you've got a house, go away, this is my spot, not yours. And it was getting really, really heated, and I thought, I'm going to go over and have a quick listen to this. And when it all died down, that's when I got the microphone out. I spoke to Anthony Grant. He's the homeless man. He's been homeless for 7 months, and he's been telling me how he became homeless and why he's so angry with unlicensed buskers. Take a listen to this.
Divorced my wife, got into another relationship, he went sour, and then I've just lost faith with people, to be honest with you. Not everyone, because not everyone's the same. Some people are nice and some people are horrible. I mean, night times when I sleep out sometimes, I get stamped on, I get beat up. You can see on the top of my head here, the last thing
So what have you eaten today?
One orange. And that was since nothing yesterday, but an orange today. A lady gave me an orange just a minute ago.
So you're here and you're begging for money because you need to eat?
Yeah, I don't do drugs, I don't do drink. As you can plainly see, I don't, no alcohol on my breath, no cans. I don't drink and I don't do drugs like most of the other people around here that try and beg. They beg because they need their drugs or their money. I beg because either if I can make enough, sometimes I can stay in a B&B. There's an easy jet. They know me very well in there.
Your big gripe is with Luton Borough Council, because there are people here who are coming down and they're playing instruments and they're trying to get money, and you feel that's wrong. These people should be having a licence or they shouldn't be here.
No, that's right, yeah. Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. Why should they be? I mean, I'm not doing nothing right. I'm not asking for anything that anyone, as in pretending I'm something I'm not. Do you know what I mean? When they're pretending they aren't. They have a house. Why should they be allowed to do that? I'll have their house and they can do this. Do you know what I mean? Quite happily, I'll have their house. I'd love to be able to have their house.
I mean, what would you say to anybody who's listening to this saying, well, it's a bit rich, and obviously I'm sure they sympathise with you because you're homeless, but what you're doing is also illegal, isn't it? You're also begging on the streets, which you're not allowed to do in this country.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I don't want to do crime. I don't want to, in other words, I don't want to go out shoplifting, I don't want to go and rob people, I don't want to go and do things. A shopkeeper here know me well here because I cause them no trouble whatsoever, and you could ask them.
You're just doing what you can to survive, that's why you're here. You're left with no option but to do this.
I haven't had no option to do it. If I had an option to do it, if I had more of an option to do it, I would do you know what I mean?
Just lastly, do you think that you can eventually turn your life around?
I hope so, because if I can't, then what's the point in living?
John's in St Albans. Morning, John. You've got a quid in your pocket, there's a busker, there's a beggar. Who are you going to give it to?
I was going to say the busker, but I actually saw a busker in St Albans. I was in St Albans on Friday.
So there is a connection to St Albans, excellent.
And she was pretty terrible. I think I gave her about 10p, which wasn't very generous.
Well, hang on, if she was terrible, why did you give her anything? You should have just given her a dirty look.
No, I felt a bit guilty. I didn't give her a bit more, but she wasn't very good. Otherwise, I would have given her a bit more. But they vary in quality. I mean, they can be fantastic. I mean, they're regulated now on the London Underground, and sometimes it's got a bit commercial, you know, they've got sort of backing machines and things, but you get sort of the students from the Royal Academy of Music who are virtuoso violinists, and then you get sort of Rent a Bob Dylan at the other end, you know. But if they're competent, you know, I like listening to music, so I don't care if they got a licence or not. If they're good, I will throw a few quid in. I mean, sometimes you hear saxophone and things, jazz, and it can be...
John,
sometimes it's terrible, sometimes it's great.
I don't need to hear someone playing bad, out-of-tune saxophone over a karaoke tape of Careless Whisper by George Michael. It doesn't do it for me.
No, not well. If they play anything by Wham, I'd probably shoot them, but that...
There's a fella in Tottenham Court Road tube station, and every time I pass him, and I've passed him quite a few times, he's always playing the same song, an old Calypso song called Matilda. He's always playing it. You think, for goodness sakes, man, you've only got one tune, do something else.
No, you'd think that there's quite a few good Calypso tunes out on there. You think he might vary it a bit. As for the homeless, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's outside. I felt really sorry for that fella that you were talking to, that Justin spoke to in Luton. I don't know how bad the problem is in Luton, and I suspect that organisations like Crisis and Shelter are doing essential work. I wonder, on a serious point, whether some of the changes to benefit, particularly the cap on housing benefit, is going to make the problem worse. I suspect it will. And for all the people who sort of say, oh, well, these benefit people are scroungers, you know, at the end of the day, they're human beings, and I would want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
John, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much indeed. There's John who saw a busker in St Albans. She wasn't very good. He still gave her 10 pence. I don't know if that's worse than walking by, though. If I'm stood there playing, you know, I like the phrase rent-a-bob. If I'm there playing All Along the Watchtower or Blowing in the Wind, and someone chucked me a coin, well, thanks very much, mate. Oh, 10 pence, you can take that back. I think I'd be more offended by the 10 pence than just walking past. Also, they've invented Sony Walkmans now. You can have any kind of music, you know, Walkmans, iPods, isn't it? You can have any kind of music in your ears you want. Why would I want to listen to Rent-a-Bob? Or, there's no need for it. Lynn's in Hazelmere. Morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
Lynn, who would you give the pound to?
Probably the busker now, because we had a bit of an experience with beggars.
Oh.
We were in Aylesbury a couple of years ago now, and we always used to see the same guy and always put money in his, hat, etc. Or I always used to offer to buy him a sandwich or a drink, but he always used to say no money.
Yeah.
And I always just think that was funny, because you can also do the suspended coffee, in the coffee shops.
A suspended coffee?
Yeah, you can, when you go in and have coffee, you give them extra money so that the homeless person can go in and get a coffee. They do it in America. They do it everywhere now.
Do they? I've never heard of a suspended coffee before. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you can buy them a sandwich or a biscuit or a cake or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So they can go in like, everybody else and have a coffee.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do now. But we were going back to the car park and with shopping, and in front of us was the beggar, and they got in a better car than we did. So I'm a bit more careful now, so I'd probably put the money in with the buskers.
Hang on a minute, sorry. The beggar got into a better car than what, and drove off?
Yeah.
And was driving it?
Yes.
It was their car?
Yes.
Well, how did... What car was it?
It was a 4x4, wasn't it?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah.
I can't remember. I didn't phone up the radio. You did. You get the story straight, Lynn, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, but he really got in a better car than we have.
You do hear stories, don't you? And I always thought they were maybe slightly mythical of beggars who would beg, like this gentleman, and then would strip off, and underneath they got a really expensive suit and jump into a car. But you're saying this actually happened?
Yeah, it did actually happen. It was in the Hundreds car park in Aylesbury.
Well, that's naughty.
And, yeah, it was naughty, and that really changed my thinking then.
But buskers, though, Lynn, they're flipping rubbish, aren't they?
There was a really good guy, actually, it takes a lot to get up and start singing or playing in front of people.
Yeah.
There was a brilliant guy the other day in Aylesbury, he was singing, and he was brilliant, so I put money in his pot.
What was he singing Acapulco?
Sorry?
Who's that fella in the background? Is that your husband?
Oh, that's my husband, yeah.
What's his name?
Darryl.
Darryl, shut up, mate, I'm talking to Lynn.
Yeah, he said shut up, he's talking to me.
No, it's worked, good.
Sorry, it has, yeah.
So he was just singing on his own, was he?
Yes.
What was he singing? Bob Marley?
No, he was singing... he was just singing all sorts of different songs.
Okay.
I'm not up on the really modern stuff, but yeah, he was singing. Yeah, it was really good.
Darryl.
He's charming.
Lynn, listen, lovely to talk to you. Next time, can you do it in a different room from Darryl?
Yeah, definitely.
I think you can do better than him, Lynn. I really do. Thank you for being a good sport, Lynn. Take care.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's been announced that disabled drivers using 3 hospitals in Hertfordshire won't now have to pay for car parking. West Hertfordshire Hospitals NHS Trust have considered charging blue badge holders for parking at hospitals in St Albans, Hemel Hempstead and Watford. Steve's in Luton. Morning, Steve.
Morning.
What do you think about the parking in hospitals?
It should be free.
Why?
It should be. Why shouldn't it? Why should the taxpayer foot the bill for other people? It should be a playing field, just a level playing.
Well, hang on. If it was free, then the taxpayer would be footing the bill. So you've just argued against yourself.
Oh, no.
You have, Steve. You just argued against yourself.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we spend 15 billion to go in foreign aid. We can take the money out of that.
No, but then the taxpayer. The initial point was the taxpayer shouldn't foot the bill. We should all have free parking. So, if we had free parking, the taxpayer would be footing the bill.
I don't care about it. At the end of the day, there's loads of things we pay. I'm fed up. The taxpayer pays too much for everything.
But the taxpayer... Steve, listen to yourself. You're arguing up your own backside. You just said...
Yeah, I just said, well, at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. I want free car parking. When I go to the hospital to visit someone, I don't want to go and get change out of my pocket when I'm going to see someone. Right, that's what I'm on about. Not about the big issue of the whole government and the whole country.
OK, you want free parking in hospitals?
Yeah, right, that's what I'm on about.
Who's going to pay for that?
I don't know. They can find money for wars. They can find.
So the taxpayer will pay for it.
Well, eventually, yeah.
He's gone. I think Steve may have just self-imploded there. I think that conversation may have been too much for him. Steve, thank you.
If you've never called Iain Lee before, make sure you do it this week. But do make sure you've got a point.
This is Iain Lee
on BBC Three Counties Radio.
He does like to have fun with you all, and sometimes he winds you up. But above all, he loves torturing me.
So, Catherine.
Yes.
Did you have a nice weekend?
Yes.
I don't care. My weekend.
Oh.
No, I don't. It's very rarely I have a really nice weekend.
OK, go on then.
OK, what did you do?
Nothing.
OK, so I went glamping.
Yeah.
I know, it does sound quite gay, doesn't it? When I saw the word glamping, I was, what on earth is this strange hybrid of hetero-homosexuality? And it is a little bit, but it's very camp, but it's fantastic. It's a posh tent, right? It looks like a circus tent. It's got a 4-poster bed in it.
Right, OK, that's probably the only camping I would do.
Yeah, exactly. That whole thing of bivouacs.
What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. My little boy, 3 years old, he wanted to play with the big boys, OK? There were big boys there. They were like 8 and 10. He said, Dad, I want to play with the big boys. I said, well, let's go. We can go and play with the big boys. To be honest, the big boys were little thugs. On the Saturday night, they were conducting executions in a barbecue.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. So he said, I want to go and play with the big boys. I said, OK, how do you want to go and play with them? I want to do rollovers for them.
Probably not the right approach.
No, I know. I said, OK, well, let's go and do rollovers. So I taught him how to do rollovers, and he went and did them with the big boys. They weren't interested. But 4-year-old Erin was interested.
Oh, yeah.
She was interested. So they're hanging out all night, like hanging around and playing and stuff, and it goes really well. But then the next morning, Erin pops over to our tent for breakfast, OK? She's 4, he's 3.
She's forward, isn't she?
I know. And I turned around, they were having breakfast. Where have the kids gone? We couldn't find them. We went into the tent. Now, I don't know how you feel about this. They were both in bed eating brioche together.
Oh.
Is that, I don't know, is that appropriate?
I don't know.
I feel I should have done something.
As a mother of daughters, I wouldn't have had that.
No, as the mother of a son, I was thinking you. No, I wasn't. I was thinking that's terrible behaviour.
Oh, it's all innocent fun. Crumbs in the bed, though, not good.
Oh, dirty. But your weekend was all right, was it?
Yeah,
don't
it was
care.
all right. Oh.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
This week, Iain admitted to cleaning his teeth only once a day. Yeah, once. He reckons he's got no fillings, but I didn't fancy getting close enough to check. But it seems he's not the only toothpaste dodger out there. Jane in Aylesbury gave us a ring with a story about the one who, thankfully, got away.
Morning.
Jane, do you brush your teeth regularly?
Yes, I do.
How often?
Twice.
How many fillings?
Probably about 4 or 5.
Did you see? The proof positive. You only need brush your teeth once a day. You will never have fillings. You had a relationship with the dirty man, did you?
Yes, I did.
What happened? I mean in the oral sense. No, hang on.
Yeah,
I mean teeth-wise.
Yeah.
Yes, go on.
He would not brush his teeth for weeks at a time.
Oh, my God, weeks?
Yes, weeks.
Why?
Just laziness. It's the same with the shaving, the same with the showering.
Oh, was he homeless or something?
No, he was living at home with his parents.
Oh, for goodness. How old was he?
43.
Oh, Jane, there's so much wrong with this.
Yes.
A 43-year-old man living with mum who doesn't brush his teeth. The shaving, well, I can kind of dig, but doesn't have a shower. What on earth did you see in him?
Well, that's what...
Oh.
It was, let's put it this way. It was a dating website, and I saw the picture. I thought, oh, yes, okay. And we contacted each other with emails, etc.
Yeah.
The first time I met him, right, sitting across the table having a drink, the smell was absolutely horrendous.
Oh.
It was absolutely... He would be a passenger in my car, and the smell would last for 2 days. The smell from his mouth would last for 2 days.
And did you marry this man?
No, I did not.
How long did you go out with him?
Just about a year.
Just a year?
Yeah.
Just a year?
Just
Is that
about
all?
a year.
Wow, gosh.
Yes.
I thought
he when he stayed over, I even got him a toothbrush and stuff, and for him to, and he would not use it.
He sounds like quite a catch, Jane. Why did you let this man go? Did you say to him, all right, Steve, listen, I'll be honest, you stink?
Yes, I did. In the end, yes.
And his reaction?
Well, that's me. You take me as you take me.
Oh, dear, Jane. Well, in some ways, thank you for that story. In some ways, oh, dear, why did you have to tell me that story?
Before Iain sloped off to watch Jeremy Kyle in his track slacks, he handed the show over to Justin Dealey, along with some top tips and advice.
Joined now by Justin Dealey. Morning, Justin.
Hello, Iain. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Now, listen, I'm off for a few days. I'm off...
Sorry?
Turn that off. Okay. Bit of respect.
Okay.
I'm a professional broadcaster. I've been broadcasting for the last 15 years. I have worked with some of the country's greats.
I know you had, but that email was sent to me by the BBC Complaints Department for the next few days. Apparently, they can put their feet up and enjoy life. Happy days.
So I'm coming back next Tuesday, inshallah. Now, all I want to say, Justin, is there are a few tips I've got for you. Because I have heard when you filled in for me before, and I was disappointed that David Prever wasn't free this week. Yeah. So just a few things, OK? Stop talking like a Cockney barra boy, if you can. Well, I've injected class into this show.
OK.
Stop treating the ladies on the team as pieces of meat that are just there to get you cups of tea with free shugs.
Are you talking about me or are you talking about you here? I'm just a little bit confused.
I'm addressing you.
OK.
When the callers call in, I like to treat them with a bit of respect and dignity. And I would expect you to... I don't treat them as listeners or callers. I treat them as friends.
Yeah, of course you do, yeah.
So I would like you to do the same. And also, just try the night before, try and read up on some of the things we're talking about, some of the subjects, some of the stories. So you don't just sound like you've just jumped in the morning and reading a script cold without having any background knowledge about the stories.
This is all a bit bizarre because that feedback meeting we had 2 weeks ago, all these things were addressed to you. Would I be correct in saying
they
that?
were addressed to me, Justin,
Yes.
and I asked them to address them to me so that you wouldn't get upset. It was aimed at you, technically.
Right, okay.
So can I just ask, what ideas, what plans have you got for the next few days on the show? I'm just going to see where you're taking it.
I've got absolutely no idea. At this moment in time.
Okay.
Play a few tracks in the first hour.
Right, okay.
It's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Okay. You no idea of the stories you're going to tackle? Keep it local and vocal is the slogan here.
Local and vocal, as it says on the back of those buses.
Yep, okay. So if you can just get some nice local stories, juicy local stories are the kind I like, where people are angry about something and they see you as a champion, okay?
Yeah. Great advice.
Is it too late to get David Prever back? Can we not ask him to come off his holiday?
They pressed the speed dial number 2 to get through to David Prever, but sadly he couldn't make it this week.
Okay.
He said, I just can't stand in for that Iain Lee anymore. I just can't do it.
Justin, just don't crash the ship, okay?
No, I won't do.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Iain.
Ta-ta.
Have a great time.
There we go. Thank you very much. I do worry, and I apologise. It's unfortunate I have to take this time off. I apologise. Justin Dealey... I do hope the show is still here.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is Iain Lee.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
That's it for Iain Lee's podcast. He'll be back next week if he can be bothered, although I doubt very much he'll have had a wash. In the meantime, if you're really missing that smelly old sausage, then why not download all of his podcasts? They're all free and packed with great content perfectly linked together by Iain himself. OK, so it's average content, dodgily linked together, but still they're worth a listen. OK, so maybe not worth listening to them all the way through. But they are free.
Thanks for listening to this free download from BBC Three Counties Radio, your local radio station for beds, hearts and bucks. On FM, AM, digital radio and online at bbc.co.uk/3counties.